We continue in our mitzvah of judging favorably, a critically important mitzvah in how we look at other people and how we judge other people, and it is going to be the guarantee to avoid saying lashon hara, to engaging in evil talk, to besmirch, to slander. And this class is Lenus of Rachel Ebers Chaim Tzvi, and our series of doing honorable mention. I want to point out, we were privileged to write a book about judging favorably called Courtrooms of the Mind, and I'm sure they're going to make it a little closer so they can see exactly. This was somewhat of a path break. This book, it was the first book written on the subject, and we are privileged to have an introduction by the very famous posek, Rabbi Yitzchak Berkovitz, who makes very important points. I'm not going to quote from him, all right, I will quote one line, because it's very, very much Rabbi Berkowitz-y when he says this. He interprets judging favorably, judging justly, as just being fair. Be fair. That's his claim. And I would like to mention something which he brings in a footnote. Let me just have this, he mentions about fairness. All right, if someone really is concerned about knowing the laws germane to judging favorably, which we outlined in last week's class, it's really worth your while to read the halachic introduction, Rabbi Berkowitz, to Courtrooms of the Mind. I would encourage you to read the stories also, because after reading a book like this, it's much harder to not to give the benefit of the doubt. What the book teaches more than anything else is more often than not when you judge favorably, you've judged correctly. That flies in the face of what you normally would think. It's somewhat counterintuitive, but I think we've made a pretty positive case for this. In the courtrooms of the mind, in your seichel, because we're always judging, that when you judge favorably, more often than not, you've judged correctly. And he brings a very interesting idea in a footnote, quoting his good friend, our good friend, Rabbi Daniel Spetner. Let me read you the famous Gemara. The Talmud teaches, this is Gemara Shabbos Kuf Chav Zayin. It says the following. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis have taught, Hadan chaver lekavskos, danin osa lekavskos. If you judge a fellow person favorably, then the Almighty will judge you favorably. And I'll leave you with an assignment to think about, what does it mean the way if you judge favorably, then God will judge you favorably? Doesn't seem to make sense. Because our ability to judge is a function of our lack of knowledge, which doesn't make sense by God. In other words, if you see a Jew walk into a non-kosher restaurant, why did he walk in? Either to see what time it is, make a phone call, or perhaps they could not contain their craving and partook of non-kosher food. We don't know. Therefore, we have a mitzvah from the Torah to give the benefit of the doubt. But we can't apply this to God. God is the omniscient. He knows all. So what does it mean the way you judge, the way that God will judge, because our ability to judge is a function of our lack of knowledge, and God knows all. I'm not going to go into this, but Rav Chaim Shmulevitz has a nice answer. We can think about this. And as we said initially, this class is a forum. I'm more than open to any questions you will send via Na'aleh, which I'll try and address online and in the studio time. Okay, so the rabbis taught the way you judge is the way you'll be judged. And as the Talmud so often does, it quotes a law and tells a story which will highlight the point of that law. And the Gemara says, Ma'aseh b'adam echad, a story about one man, Shirad mi Galil Helyon. He descended from the upper Galilee. And this guy, Eitzel Balabais, and he got a job working for a employer, B'daram in the south. He worked for him for 3 years. Erev Yom Kippur, and he came Erev Yom Kippur after 3 years of assiduous work, being a very faithful employee. After 3 years, he said to his boss, Tein li schari ve'elech v'azones ishti uvanai. Please pay me my wages that I might return up north to my family and give money to my wife and to my children. Amar lo, said the employer, Ein li mos. I have no money to give you. Now let's make this example as realistic as we can relate to it. As he's saying this, the pockets are jingling with so much money. There seems to be bills flying out of everywhere, and he says, I don't have any money. Amar lo, said the employee, Tein li peiros, please, I beg of you, give me fruit. And all around the field, Newton's law of gravity is being proven, as apples and pears and peaches and oranges are flying, dropping down from the trees. He said, I don't have any fruit. So the employee says, Tein li karka, give me some land. And as far as you can see, this range, this whole plot of land, belongs to the owner. He said, I don't have any land. So then he says, the employee says, Tein li behema. And you can barely hear the question because donkeys are braying, horses are making horse noises. Dogs are barking, cows are mooing. You can't even hear the question, there's so much animal noise. He says, I don't have any animals. Then he says, Teli karin vixosos, give me some pillows, some linen. And as he's saying, these workers are going by in wheelbarrows stuffed with linen and blankets and pillows. And it seems to be like Macy's having a White Day sale and all the workers going out with all the linen. Eli doesn't say, he says, I don't have any. What did this worker do? He put his pekla over his shoulder, he put his, he put his stuff, the stick over his shoulder. Hifshil kelev la'achorav. He took his shoemaker possessions, threw them over his shoulder. V'halach lebezu pachei nefesh. He went home in a very distraught, disenchanted, crestfallen, melancholy mood. He had nothing to show for all his late years of work.